Imagine you are designing a simple bolt. This bolt will be holding two heavy steel plates together in a bridge or in a skyscraper. When those plates are subjected to heavy loads, all that force is transferred directly into our bolt. If the stress generated inside that bolt exceeds the material's strength, it is going to fail. Now, interesting thing is, even if the forces are pulling or pushing in a perfectly straight line, the bolt usually doesn't break straight across. If you look at a failed bolt, it tends to break along an inclined plane. It snaps at an angle. As engineers, we need to know at what angle will the bolt fail. And to figure that out, we first need to understand how stress acts inside the bolt or in any other material. Stress doesn't act same in every direction, and different planes experience different stresses. We do have mathematical equations that can calculate the stress at any angle you can imagine. But if we want to check the stress at 30 degree, then 45 degree, then 60 degree to find that danger zone, we would have to solve these heavy equations over and over again. It's exhausting and very easy to make a mistake. So instead of doing that repeatedly, we use a very powerful and elegant method, Mohr Circle. It's basically a visual shortcut. It converts all those heavy equations into a simple diagram. And honestly, if you can draw a circle, you can find the stress at any angle. And eventually, it helps us understand where failure is most likely occur. So let's begin with the basics and look at what's actually happening inside our bolt. When we apply a force to a material, it fights back and develops an internal resistance to counteract that force. How much that resistance force is acting per unit area is called stress. Mathematically, it is defined as the force per unit area over which this force acts. Now, in the material, this resistance or stress usually shows up as two different types: normal stress and shear stress. To visualize these stresses, let's slice the object to show its area of cross section. Normal stress is the type of stress that acts perpendicular, means 90 degrees, to the cross section of the material. Now, if the direction of the internal force acting on this cross section is outward, it will try to stretch the material and we call it tensile stress. On the other hand, if the direction of the internal force is inward, it tries to compress it and we call it compressive stress. We write this normal stress, both tensile and compressive, as Greek letter sigma, and mathematically it is defined as force per unit area. Now, if this internal force acts parallel to the cross section of the material, it is called shear stress. Shear means to cut or divide something into two parts, especially by sliding one part over the other. So, when a material experiences a shear stress, the stress tries to move or slide part of it relative to the rest of the substance. Shear stress is written as a Greek letter tau and is also defined as the force per unit area. Now, this is just one section, one vertical plane on which we calculated both normal and shear stress developed. But we can slice the bolt at some angle, say at 30 degrees or 45 degrees. Even though the external force on the element hasn't changed, the way the internal force acts on that surface becomes different. And also, the area of that diagonal slice becomes larger too. And because of that, the value of normal stress and shear stress also change as we change the orientation of the plane. But as we can imagine, There can be infinitely many such planes passing through a single point, each at a different angle. Now, among all these planes, we are especially interested in those where the stress becomes maximum. Because on one of these planes, if the stress exceeds material's capacity, material fails along that plane. And that plane is called the failure plane. But now comes the practical challenge. How do we analyze infinitely many planes? Instead of dealing with the entire body, we simplify the problem. We zoom into a single point inside the material and imagine a very small element around it. We show the stresses acting on this element from all the directions as normal and shear stresses. To simplify this even further, instead of three-dimensional cube, let's consider a two-dimensional square. Let's say the stresses acting on two mutually perpendicular planes of this square are sigma x, sigma y, and tau xy. Now, mathematically, if we know the stresses acting on two mutually perpendicular planes, we can determine the stresses on any plane that is at any angle theta. The normal and shear stress on this new plane can be given by these equations. Don't worry about memorizing these. They come from simply balancing the forces on that inclined plane. However, looking at these long formulas, a German scientist and civil engineer, Christian Otto Mohr, realized these equations could be represented graphically as a simple circle. He then developed an extremely useful device known as Mohr Circle of stress. This circle actually contains all the information about the stress at every possible angle. Instead of solving these equations again and again for different angles, Mohr showed that we can rearrange these equations to look like a standard formula for a circle. First, we rewrite the equations after a little rearrangement. Next, we square both sides of the equations and add them together. This completely eliminates the theta. Now, if you remember your high school geometry, this is exactly the form of a circle equation. From this, we can clearly identify the center of the circle as this and its radius as this. To draw Mohr circle, we take normal stress on the horizontal axis and shear stress on the vertical axis. We begin with two known stress points. We mark sigma x and sigma y on the normal stress axis, assuming sigma x is greater than sigma y. Note that tau xy and tau yx are equal in magnitude but opposite in direction. So tau xy is equal to minus of tau yx. So these 2 points lie vertically opposite to each other. We mark these points on the graph and connect these 2 points to form the diameter of the circle. The midpoint of this line gives us the center of the circle, which also lies on the normal stress axis. With these points and the diameter, we complete the Mohr circle. Now take a moment to look at what we have just built. This isn't just a geometric shape, it is a complete map of every single one of those infinite planes passing through that point in the material we mentioned earlier. Every single point on this circumference represents the exact combination of normal and shear stress for a different angle inside your material. So instead of analyzing infinitely many planes one by one, we have captured all of them in one diagram. Now, using basic geometry, we can determine the center and the radius of this Mohr circle. These are exactly the same values we obtained earlier from the equations. Notice that on the circle, the points representing sigma x and sigma y are 180-degree apart. But in the actual material element, those planes are perpendicular, meaning they are 90-degree apart. And this is how every angle in the Mohr circle is represented. It's always double. Any plane in the material that is at an angle theta from the reference plane will be represented on the Mohr circle at a point that forms an angle of 2 theta from the center. Also, notice something very interesting in the Mohr circle. There are 2 points where the circle crosses the horizontal axis. At these points, the shear stress is 0. In real life, we actually find 2 planes in the material where shear stress is completely 0. And these 2 points on our circle represent those planes. Since these 2 points are 180-degree apart on the circle, we can infer the corresponding planes in the material are perpendicular to each other. These planes are called principal planes, and the stresses on them are called principal stresses. Also notice these stresses are the highest and the lowest normal stresses the material ever feels. They are denoted as sigma 1 and sigma 2 and are called major and minor principal stresses respectively. In fact, in a real three-dimensional element, there are 3 such principal planes, mutually perpendicular to each other, on which the shear stress is 0. The normal stresses on those planes are denoted as sigma 1, sigma 2 and sigma 3 and are called major, intermediate and minor principal stresses respectively. Now here is another important observation. If we look at the very top of our Mohr circle, that point represents the absolute maximum shear stress acting on some plane inside our material. It is clear from the geometry that this maximum shear stress is exactly equal to the radius of the circle. As we move in either direction away from this peak, the shear stress value starts to decrease. Therefore, the maximum shear stress that can occur on any plane in the material is equal to the radius of the Mohr circle. We can see that the point representing the maximum shear stress makes a 90-degree angle at the center of the circle with our principal stress point. And since the angle on Mohr circle are double the actual angle, the plane of maximum shear stress is actually inclined at 45 degree from the principal plane in the material. So maximum shear stress always acts on planes inclined at 45 degree to the principal planes. Now, it might seem obvious to think that the material would fail exactly along the plane where either the normal stress is maximum or where shear stress is maximum. But surprisingly, that is not always the case. To predict the actual failure plane and the stresses at failure, engineers have developed several different theories. But let's save that for another video. Whether you are in mechanical engineering, calculating the strength of an engine part, geotechnical engineering studying the stability of soil, or structural engineering designing a massive bridge, Mohr Circle is going to be your best friend. It's more than just a graph. It's a tool that helps us see the invisible forces inside our material to make sure they stay safe. I hope this video was helpful to you. Also, if you are studying strength of materials, I have made a simple formula sheet that brings all the key formulas together in one place. If you are interested, you can purchase it with the link in the description. With that, I would like to thank my patrons for supporting elementary engineering financially. Also, thanks to the members of my channel here on YouTube. If you also like the video, you can support elementary engineering on Patreon or join the channel here on YouTube to unlock the members only content. Also, there are other methods of supporting the channels too. Find the links of books and other sources I referred for the creation of this video in the description. Read the Mohr Circle at elementaryengineeringlibrary.com. Thank you.